Moana, animated film from Disney Studios, the second one to have its story deeply rooted in Polynesian culture after Lilo and Stitch. And actually, even more so than that film, as it draws heavily not just on the culture and habits and the atmosphere of the place, but also on traditions and deeper stuff like legends. The story opens with one such legend being told to a little girl named Moana. In that story, Maui, a demigod responsible for basically creating the Polynesian islands and that whole way of life, steals the heart of Tefiti, a gem rumored to be able to create life. Before he is able to escape with it, a fiery demon, Teka, separates him from his magic weapon and casts him away never to be seen again, and the gem itself is also believed lost. As may be expected, it ends up with Moana, who, as a teenager, the ocean chooses her as its disciple, and she has to leave her village, traverse the ocean to find Maui, and then help him take the gem back to Tefiti to fix things. Problems are twofold. One, Moana is supposed to become the next village chief, and her father doesn't want to let her go, especially as traditionally the villagers never leave out to sea, not past a barrier reef around the island. There are good reasons for that, which we'll learn in the course of the story. And in fact, Moana herself is the one to discover ships hidden away in a cave that clearly show that her people used to be nomads, but then ceased to travel for some reason. And the second problem is that when she eventually finds Maui, he is a rather uncooperative fellow, an asshole in many ways. And generally, while he's not purely an evil guy, he is certainly someone who mainly looks out for his own interest. Or so it seems on the surface. Alright, so with that setup, I really loved Moana for several things. First and most importantly, it's just a pleasant and enjoyable adventure film, in some ways reminding me of stuff such as Indiana Jones. There is one action sequence which is almost entirely lifted from Mad Max Fury Road. Thematically, there is a bit of Lord of the Rings in here as well. The beginning with the father not wanting Moana to go is very reminiscent of Finding Nemo. So in general, it borrows elements and themes from so many other works of art, but it steals them intelligently and subtly enough while still doing its own thing on that fundament. That one thing, that own thing, I mean, is another reason to love the film, because Moana is so entrenched in the Polynesian culture. There's so much unique stuff about it. The Maui character, the culture which impacts the way characters talk and behave, the songs which draw inspiration from the music of the region. The general feel is, it's very familiarly Disney in some ways, but at the same time not Disney, not something they've done 100 times before. It shows that the filmmakers did their research, did a lot of it. In fact, I read that the plot of that plot point of villagers settling down and ceasing to travel actually has a base in reality. Apparently, historically speaking, the entire Western Polynesia was heavily explored and colonized by the nomadic cultures, and then there was a 900-year gap where they all just settled. Nobody knows why or what caused it. And then after that period, suddenly they just up and started traveling again and colonized the entire eastern part of the islands in a short period of time. The voice talent is also great, and it helps that all the main characters are voiced by people from that region as well. The Rock as Maui deserves a shout out. I think he does a fantastic job lending his charm to the character, and it's certainly not a case of a celebrity doing voice work just to boost the film, just to lend it his or her name. In fact, The Rock himself doesn't like that approach, and he worked hard to ensure that his voice performance was up to a certain standard. Jermaine Clement also shows up, and it's a treat as always. He has one of the better songs in the movie. Visually speaking, the film is beautiful. It showcases how fluid animation has progressed in the past years, the water and stuff, to the point that in some scenes water just looks real. It doesn't look like it's computer generated anymore, but actual footage of the ocean. The characters' animation fits their bodies and character traits. There's a lot of life and energy in the pictures, and I also really grew to love Moana as the protagonist. I think she has a great journey where at the beginning she is completely inexperienced at sailing, especially, and gets in trouble on her trip, and she's out of her element. She doesn't really know what she's doing. And the first few times she encounters trouble, her first instinct is to look for help elsewhere from external sources, to ask the ocean or Maui to help her out. But as time goes on, she realizes that she's the only one she can really count on, and she grows into that person that takes responsibility and takes action. And even if she does end up needing assistance, after all, she's not completely helpless. She has agency and control over her actions. And that growing up and slowly becoming mature is shown just fantastically. And I think that that makes the film a treat for children, just a great message overall. Um, as a big fan of Lilo and Stitch, I thought a lot during watching Moana and after about which of the two I ended up liking more. And I have to say, all things considered, Moana may be the better one of the two, which, from me, high praise indeed.